Generation Z, born between 1997 and 2012. We are the generation that has been called lazy, incompetent, and unwilling to do hard work by the older generations. I'm not saying that's not true. I'm just trying to understand why we're that way to begin with. Our generation is going through a crisis. We're burning out faster and at higher numbers than the previous generations. This is alarming, and we need to talk about it. In today's video, we're going to discuss why Gen Z is burnt out so bad. If that interests you, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to see more videos like this. Disclaimer, I am not a licensed therapist. I cannot give you medical advice. I highly recommend seeking professional advice and doing your own personal research instead of solely relying on this video for information on the subject. Burnout is a form of exhaustion caused by constantly feeling swamped. It happens when we experience too much emotional, physical, and mental fatigue for too long. There are so many signs of burnout. For example, you might be feeling drained and constantly tired no matter how much rest you get. You might be having trouble going to sleep. You might be feeling numb at work or frustrated with your relationships. You might snap at others over minor things. You might be struggling with focus on simple tasks. Or you might be using substances to numb what you feel. If any of these examples resonate with you, you might be experiencing burnout. Our generation is not the first to experience burnout. Previous generations have experienced burnout, but they experienced it in their mid to late 40s, or way later than that. Gen Z is experiencing burnout in their late teens and early 20s. This is very concerning. The world that Gen Z inherited is far from perfect. It is actually the opposite of perfection. We have become adults in a time when nothing is affordable. The salaries don't match the cost of living. Most people work multiple jobs just to survive, and they barely scrape by, given how much they actually make. And if you're thinking, well, people with qualifications get better jobs, you're in for a rude awakening. Having a degree doesn't guarantee you a job. It all depends on who you know and how well connected you are. And that leads a lot of young qualified people to being unemployed and eventually taking any job they can get because they need to survive. Most of us don't own homes. Housing has now become a crisis all over the globe. Prices have gone way up, only benefiting those who are already rich, making it harder for the poor and the middle class to afford having a home. Rent is also very high, so either way we're screwed. We can barely afford food. Food has become so expensive. Every time I go grocery shopping, I'm like, do I really need to eat? It has become that bad. And forget being sick. In fact, never get sick. Because how are you going to pay for health care? So much money is spent on war, yet the general public cannot afford basic human needs. The UN estimates that 3 billion people lack access to proper housing, secure land, or even basic services. So as you can imagine, Gen Z isn't handling any of this well. I mean, who can blame us? Look at the state of the world right now. Social media was created to be an extremely addictive tool, even at the cost of our brains. The amount of opinions that are there is just overwhelming. The content doesn't end. The platforms were created to keep us there at all costs, and that shifts our attention away from reality. When we're on social media, our brains aren't taking a break. They are constantly at work. There is too much to process, so what ends up happening is that our brains are working overtime for little to no substance at all. Our generation is constantly performing. Our whole life is a performance, because you never know when someone is watching or recording. On the other hand, we live our lives vicariously through others, and that can be isolating. The more time we spend on social media, the less likely we are going to be social in real life. It is ironic, actually. Social media was made for people to socialize with one another, but we have become so antisocial because of it. Humans were never meant to be alone. We thrive in a community. It affords us a safe space, and we feel better knowing that we're not going through difficulties alone. Another thing with social media is that we can monetize our hobbies, and once the things you do outside of work become work, separating life from work becomes hard, and that can be draining in itself. There are so many reasons why we could stay in that cycle. Life is already unfair. It feels like the world is coming to an end and our problems are never ending. But there are more reasons why we should try to break that cycle. There is hope, and we have seen what can be achieved when people work together rather than in isolation. Gen Z might have a problem, but we call it out for what it is. We talk about things, and that to me sounds like a step in the right direction. There is so much that can be said on this matter, and I just barely scratched the surface. Feel free to comment down below what you think I've missed. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next one.